Hi, I'm Kirk Kernut,
And I'm Ashley Gordon.
and welcome to another episode of Reading for the Rest of Us.
And this is our holiday edition, our gift book recommendations for all and sundry.
It's hard to believe 2015 is almost in the history books, but this is the time of year that we are all furiously trying to figure out what we're going to give our family and our friends for Christmas. And it's no surprise that we believe in giving books, and so we've got some recommendations today.
Books are the perfect gift. And two hashtags I want to get out before we get too much further, so that you can give a book and know that another book is also being given. There are two different social media campaigns that are going on this holiday season. Hashtag Give Books. Every time you use that on Facebook and Twitter, you're contributing to a donation to First Book, which is the national organization that gives books to children, and that one is sponsored by Chronicle Books. And another, very similarly titled, hashtag Give a Book, is sponsored by Penguin Random House, and it's also to donate books to First Book, and both of them, one shooting for 35,000 books and one shooting for 30, second or third year of the campaign, and they've been huge successes. So it's super easy. All you have to do is, when you're tweeting about giving, put give a book or give books in your post, and then you're part of the larger plan.
Excellent. That's very exciting, and I think 35,000 is certainly a mark that could be hit in a day or two.
Yeah, it's a good number to shoot for.
So let's start with books for young children, and it's a special milestone year because this year marks the 30th anniversary. I can't believe this. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the Polar Express.
The Polar Express, yeah. Just let's start off making us all feel old.
There you go.
So to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the Polar Express, they've issued a new edition, and there it is. And this one comes with something special that is, I'm not sure if this is geared toward the kids or their middle-aged moms like me, but you can download a free audio reading of the book by Liam Neeson.
Oh,
so,
wow.
you can go to sleep on Christmas Eve with Liam Neeson's voice in your ear.
And he's not telling you he'll track you down and kill you. I mean, he's doing something,
right,
something different.
Not that Liam Neeson. No, wonderful Liam Neeson. And one of the things that makes Polar Express so special, I think, and that's true of a few of the gift books that we'll talk about, is that it's part of a larger package, and you can create an entire family memory around. In the little town where I live, they shut the streets down in the late November. We have a tree lighting event for the trees that line the streets, not our Christmas tree quite yet. And we have a citywide movie that we watch, and it's usually Polar Express. So we sit there in the 70-degree heat and drink our hot chocolate and watch the snow on the movie screen. But the book and the movie, the traditions that surround it, those make the holiday memory. So that's one of the reasons why books are such great gifts, is because they're part of an event. And one that you can create at home. So.
I think one of the fun things to do with serious readers is always the stories of how you acquire books and who gives them to you and inscriptions.
That's very true.
All of that is about the history of collecting a library or building a library, and so it's kind of fun that those are part of the memories, and they enrich the reading experience. You brought
wait before you, because I didn't know you were going to say that. So we need to. That's a perfect segue to one of my other suggestions. This book, this Jane Eyre. Let me hold it still. I tend to fly around with them so that you can see it. This was given to me when I was 13 by my Aunt Beth.
Very nice.
And so I still have the inscription, and I have this edition still that she gave me. Wonderful. So it's just as you said, that there's the journey attached to the book of who gave it to you, who introduced
just a little
to
bit.
you.
Flip it open so the camera can see it.
There we go.
Christmas.
Thank you.
Oh, and it's Christmas 1985. Is that right?
83.
83.
I was 13.
Okay.
So you too can create those Christmas memories. And and special editions of classics are wonderful because you don't really have to worry if they've read the book or they have the book, because this is that special edition that you're giving them, just like this beautifully illustrated one. And I brought some of those that are Penguin books, part of the Penguin Classic series, and also their Drop Cap series. These have been redone, redesigned. Each design is done by a particular artist. They're beautifully bound. These two were actually given to me by a friend for my birthday one year. Nice. As an adult, I think for my 35th birthday, she gives me two Jane Austens that are beautifully done. So this is such an easy gift because you pick a classic that means something to you. You can write a note about it, and then they keep that forever. It's not just the latest bestseller. So they make wonderful books.
What's great about these sort of collector's editions too is in the age of digital novels, or digital readers, that classic books like this can be downloaded for free, but the texts are usually corrupted, and when you give a gift like this, you're really teaching a young reader the importance of considering or regarding their books as artifacts or objects of art. And so these are great ways to sort of teach kids about cover design and about binding and about typesetting and all the physical artifacts that go into making a book an enjoyable part of the reading experience.
That's a great point. And you also mentioned the beginning of building a library.
Right.
And these kinds of classics, these are the books that if you want to have a library that represents both great literature and the books that you love, these are perfect ways to start.
Speaking of milestones, and this is going to blow your socks off as well, it won't be too much longer before we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the beginning of Harry Potter. And
gosh, really?
I know, it's hard to believe.
That is hard to believe.
And the first Harry Potter has actually been reissued now in an illustrated edition.
Gorgeous,
and
gorgeous.
Again, this I think is a great way of introducing kids to coffee table books and the importance again of books that are part of your home decor. And you again, we want to stress the point about books being physical objects and part of our living space and part of our everyday environment. And this is a great way of not only reintroducing kids to a great book, but of telling them that these books should be part of your life physically.
I love that idea, and also that there are different ways to tell books, to tell stories, to present books, like you said about the binding and the illustrations, that somebody had to make a decision to present it in that way, and that there are different interpretations of the same story. And this one is absolutely beautiful, and another way to make a memory. I can say this because my kids don't watch this show, but one of their holiday gifts this year will be tickets to Universal Studios and to go to the world of Harry Potter. So I'm going to give them both a wand and put the tickets in the book, so when they open the book, they'll find the tickets.
Excellent.
So
That's
it's
a great,
just the books are so easy add-ons to other gifts that kind of make it a little more special, a little more permanent. So they'll have this as their permanent reminder of the Christmas gift, because obviously the tickets will probably disappear. And
again, part of the experience. That's a wonderful gift. Hopefully nobody will hit this on YouTube and send it to them or anything. But another kind of fun gift, book gift that people don't necessarily think of as books or literature are what we call tie-ins. Yes. And there's a huge event coming up in a couple weeks that if you're our age, you kind of have memories of going to see this franchise back in the theaters early on, long before it was all rediced and sliced. But the new Star Wars is coming out, and that's sparked a whole avalanche of merchandising, including a lot of novels that are being republished over the years. But a great place to begin, if you have a child who's just starting out and wondering what is this universe, tell us about this book, because it's like everything you need to know.
In fact, that's exactly what it is. It's absolutely everything you need to know. And what makes this great, like you said, if there's a kid who's just going to see Star Wars for the first time, and none of us really know what's going to be in these new movies yet,
right.
which is what makes it exciting. But this to me is the kid for all ages. I mean, book for kids of all ages, because this one, my brother doesn't watch this either, so my brother's getting this one for Christmas. And it's one of these fun, just completely overwhelms the page with minutia, and pretty much anybody who loves Star Wars is going to want the minutia.
Right.
So this is a great book for
what I love about these I always think of these as kind of scrapbook books, because they kind of look like, the pages pasted together, and the fun of this is you can read a book like this over and over again
and find something
different. Yeah, you're in such a rush to get through the book, I think, the first few times that you seize upon certain pages, and you can always go back and find new stuff.
Well, that's like the idea that books are gifts for all seasons, and that they last.
Right.
It's not just the first time that you open it. It becomes a gift that you get to enjoy for years to come.
Great. Well, let's move on and then to adult readers.
Okay.
And let's talk about, you have a book here that I think there's a sort of myth out there, and I see this all the time when I talk to, serious men, unlike us literary men who are frivolous. But the idea that men only read nonfiction, or they only read about business, or they only read about politics. So a great gift idea for someone who's not necessarily a reader, or who thinks of reading as not a quote-unquote serious endeavor, is a book about politics or about history. And you brought one that's been very controversial lately. It is the biography of George Herbert Walker Bush.
H.W.
H.W. He was number 41, is that right?
Ooh.
President 41, yes. I believe.
I can't believe you just quizzed me on that.
But, I think we all think we know the George, the first Bush story, but this book goes into a lot more detail, has a lot of material that you probably aren't familiar with if you just sort of remember his presidency at all. But and it's a controversial book. This is the first book that has come out and announced.
Yeah.
What is it announced?
Well, like we said before, I didn't hear that as a controversy, but it was the Bush family's take on his son's cabinet and some of his cabinet members. But what you said earlier about the sense that serious men don't read, well, sometimes just men don't read. And if you watch this show with any regularity, you'll know that my spousal unit is not a big reader, and I'm constantly looking for books that he can read, and also that he can read with my kids, and my older son is a big history buff. So this is his book, because he's a huge admirer of George H.W. Bush. And I actually am an admirer of John Meacham, the historian and author who wrote the book. He's quite brilliant.
He's on a lot of morning shows. You probably recognize him.
He's a very rational speaker, and does give things a historical perspective. So his take on this presidency, I think, is quite interesting. So it's not just the subject itself, but who's written the book. So this is an attempt to find a book that the spousal unit and the large child and I can all read and talk about together. So we'll see if this one makes the cut.
All right. There is a genre that men are sort of known to read, though, if they do delve into fiction. It's not romance novels, unfortunately, but men tend to gravitate a lot towards thrillers and suspense novels as well. And this year has been a sort of banner year for the James Bond franchise.
Yes, it has.
And you brought in a great book. Now, you are a huge Bond fan.
I am. I love Bond.
What do you like about... Now, but you've read all the books.
I have.
Let's put aside...
not just movies and books.
Let's put aside the
movies.
movies. Let's talk about Ian Fleming. What do you like about those original novels?
The pacing
Okay.
I like how tight they are.
Yeah.
This you may totally disagree with this, being the scholar that you are in this particular genre, but he's kind of the Hemingway to me
Okay.
of spy novelists because he is so spare
Sure.
in his language, and somehow he makes outrageousness not seem so ridiculous. I actually find myself buying the ludicrous plot lines
Yeah.
that are in the story. They're fun. They're fun. They're tightly written. I like him a lot.
You know, the Bond books get reissued every few years, and there was a great series of reissues, I think 2 years ago, that have fabulous cover designs. But you brought in a book, and it's got a great title. It's called The Man with the Golden Typewriter.
Yep.
So tell us what this book is about.
Okay, well, this is another one of those package gift ideas. This is the newest of the ones that I'm talking about with Bond. So it's The Man with the Golden Typewriter, and it's actually a collection of Ian Fleming's letters about the process of writing the books.
Oh,
so it's writing to his publisher, writing to his agent. Apparently, even though I like him for being spare in his plot lines, he was a bit florid in his language to begin with, and so there's some very funny, typically British dry wit guidance to, maybe not so many reallys. So it's a fascinating book for anyone who's interested in Bond, who's interested in writing, who's interested in the whole process of how a novel and a series and a character is born.
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating because it's really a how-to book about how someone who invents a great character,
yeah, and then what
but
happens
is under
to
tremendous pressure
Right.
to kind of keep pumping these books out and to come up with new variations on plot lines.
Well, and if you think about the popularity of the Bourne series, that this one as well, that's very relevant to our current pop culture because
Right.
we love the concept of the ongoing series. And so this fits really well with, this isn't quite so new, but they may not have it yet. Trigger Mortis, which is one of the latest Bond novels. It's not written by Ian Fleming, obviously, because he's dead, but the estate commissioned Anthony Horowitz to write another one, and it's pretty good. What I found fascinating is that he tried so hard to make it politically appropriate to the time that it was so full of misogyny and gender stereotyping that I kind of wanted to smack him. And I forgive that with Ian Fleming, who's writing at the time,
Right.
but not so much with this current writer. Yeah, so these two books, you've got Spectre that probably is still at the movie theater.
Yeah.
So you could go swoon over Daniel Craig for a bit. And I happened to see in Costco that they have a full collection of every Bond movie for 99 bucks. So if you did have a Bond or thriller person in your family, there's your
Great
little
gift
package deal. But the book is the thing that you can write in and they can keep forever.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, tell me, have you read all the Posthumous Bonds?
No.
No?
No, just two.
I'm just curious, what was the other one you read?
The one with the tennis player.
Yeah.
Is
Is that better or worse than this?
I can't remember.
Okay. It is hard to keep some of those books
Yeah,
straight.
sometimes they just fly right through.
As opposed to the movies, I think I can keep all the movies straight just because there's usually some sort of gimmick or something,
right.
or theme
They're
song
giving
that
it to
you can
you.
tie
well,
it to.
these are all my books. What are you reading?
Well, I have been reading this year a lot of memoir, but of a very specific variety. I have gotten hooked in 2015 on memoirs by female musicians. And part of it
That's
is...
a serious niche.
It is a serious niche, but it's blown up, interestingly enough, in 2015, and I think it reflects the cultural moment that we're at. These are great. Part of the reason I wanted to recommend this quartet of books that I've brought in, and we'll kind of flash through the covers here in just a sec, but these are great books for teenage girls because what they do is they talk about being a female musician. They talk about being in bands and about sort of the ways that women are shunted off to the side in bands because they're not the guitar player, or they talk about the ways that female guitar players appropriate sort of the theatrics of famous male players.
Was there one that came out about Joan Jett? There's a long article that I read about that, and it was talking about those very things, the role of the female.
I don't think there was a Joan Jett one. I think I know the story you're talking about, but the one that's close to that I'm going to begin with is by Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders.
Okay.
This was a very controversial book when it came out in September because she made some comments about sexual assault that I think people
component
people
in the
were
Joan
really
Jett story.
Yeah, I tell you, I love Chrissie Hynde. I love the Pretenders, and this is a very important book because she was. Let's just put it this way: she was on the campus of Ohio State or Kent State, excuse me, in 1970. When the shootings occurred.
Oh, wow.
She was there for the beginnings of the punk movement in England in the 70s. She was a sort of key figure in that. But she also became, I think, one of the leading sort of female figures of the 80s. Very rare in that day and age to see a woman fronting a band. And for all intents and purposes, the Pretenders were her. She was her. And just a phenomenal voice. So, the book itself has been kind of criticized, not just for the comments about a very harrowing scene that she went through as a young woman, but I think also one of the struggles to write these books is to, you get locked into producing sort of a career overview and, then it was this year and we did this album and we toured.
And it becomes just a litany of tour dates.
But I think if you're at all interested in the sort of sexual politics of rock and roll, it's a great book to look at. Now, one book that just came out that's very different in the way that avoids a lot of the career retrospective type stuff is Patti Smith's new book called M Train.
And she's kind of gotten on a roll,
yeah,
hasn't she?
Yeah.
This is not her first, here's my life story book.
Yeah, this is her sequel to Just Kids, which won the National Book Award in 2010.
Lots of great reviews for that book.
And what's really fascinating about this is it's not a structured book at all. It's kind of builds upon, it's almost a train of association of thoughts. It doesn't feel random. But, the idea is basically she's in a coffee house and she's sort of conjuring up memories and telling stories as they come and go throughout her career. And I think it's a fascinating book. When you knock one out of the ballpark as good as Just Kids, right off the bat, the next question is where do you go from there? And
hello, Harper Lee.
Yeah, exactly. Most of these authors would end up just telling the next installment, what came next. So she's really done something innovative with form. Two of the more generationally newer voices I would recommend, and this is probably my favorite one out of all of these, is a book by Kim Gordon. She played bass in a band called Sonic Youth. The book is called Girl in a Band. And so it really gets into the idea of being the one female in a group of male musicians, and how the struggle to not be sexualized or objectified, but also to assert your chops. And it gets right even down to the fact that she was the bass player originally. And for those of you that know anything about musicians, the bass player is always the most expendable person in the band, in theory, but in reality, you're kind of
he is in fact the bass line
holds it all together,
holds the melody together.
It's a great book because it's she and her long-term husband ran the band, and then he kind of became a total jerk and ran around on her and married somebody else, and the band fell apart. And
now, can we go back to your original statement,
Sure.
which is you would recommend giving these as Christmas gifts to...
But I think those are important stories for young women to
Maybe this is the gift that you want to do together.
Yeah.
We're gonna start the conversation for your 17-year-old daughter about here's what's coming.
Well, I think what's interesting about that is that relationship for many of us who came of age in the 80s and followed that band was they were supposed to be the ultimate couple, the ultimate, and they were for 30 years until he did the classic thing of running off with a younger woman. And that for many people, that was such a violation of the principles that not only that band but independent music was supposed to stand for, that I think it comes through very poignantly in the book about how that really rocked her world, and
on something larger than the personal sense.
Yeah, exactly. The final one out of this quartet is a book by, for those of you that ever watch Portlandia, Carrie Brownstein just did a book, and it's a great title, right? Great title. It's called Hunger. I have to look, sorry. Hunger Makes Me a Modern Girl, which is a great title.
Does that mean we're allowed to be hungry now?
There you go. Well, that's part of it. And, she was in a band called Slater-Kinney, which was huge in the 90s, then broke up and got back together this year. But, she's had a very fascinating career. But it's really about her coming of age as a female musician. And I think, again, for any of you that have young adults in the house, male or female, that really want to talk about the experiences of being in a band and how to avoid being locked into certain roles because of gender or sexuality. It's really a fascinating book. Her father came out sort of halfway while she was in her 20s.
Wow.
And so it's it's a lot about family and about why families fall apart and that kind of stuff.
Perfect for the holidays.
Yeah, full of good cheer.
But you make a really good point that I think should be stressed. We started off with, these are great books to give to a young woman sort of setting out on her own. These are also really good books to give to young men.
Yeah.
Because they need to hear from other voices. It's so often true that the rock history, if you will, or that any history is being told from the male perspective. And this only works if we're all hearing each other's voices.
Right.
So I would argue that this is exactly the book to give to the boy
Excellent.
In the family.
I would agree with that. Right, we're running out of time, so we have two quick books to recommend. One, you mentioned perfect book for the holidays. We have one called Furiously.
Three, let me go really fast.
Okay.
So for your friend who reads mysteries but you don't know where they are in their series, it's Girl Waits with a Gun. So based on a true story about a female sheriff. So it's good if they like mysteries or they like exciting thriller books, but you don't know what series they're reading. And then Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson, which is about, horrible things like depression and anxiety and sort of what we all feel at the holidays. And finally, on this, whether it's a boy or a girl, I absolutely love this because it's a collection of illustrated Neil Gaiman novels. Okay, it's the British editions, which I think is totally cool. And what makes it perfect and what's the best part about it is that you have male heroes and female heroines, and I realize I'm being redundant as that comes out. So you have main characters that are both male and female. So whoever you give it to, they're going to get the perspective of the other kid. And so that's where we should end. That,
exactly.
Let's hear each other's voices this Christmas. Let's use these books to begin to broaden our horizons a little bit. But these are beautifully illustrated and nicely packaged, and so it's really just about the fun. And this is that edition that they'll keep forever. So you're making memories.
Excellent. I love the triple-decker gift books.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground. We'll have on Facebook the list of books that we're recommending if you're interested in those. We will be back in 2016 with a whole slate of varied shows, and we'll be promoting the Alabama Book Festival, which comes up in April. So, Ashley, I hope you and your family have a very happy holidays,
and
full of reading.
Thank you, and to all of you, a very happy holiday.